Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Classical English Academy. I'm Tom.
And I'm Anna. We are so happy to have you tuning in today. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying our podcast, please take a quick second to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with a friend who is also studying English.
Exactly. And don't forget to drop a comment down below as you listen. We love reading your thoughts and answering your questions. Today, we are tackling a question that almost every single student asks us at some point in their journey.
That's right, Tom. Today's topic is learning English really that hard? We are going to be sharing our honest truth about the daily struggles, the grammar myths, and why becoming fluent might not actually be as impossible as your brain is telling you.
It's going to be a really helpful discussion to get your mindset right. So, get comfortable, turn up the volume, and let's get started.
You know, Tom, I was looking through the comments on our Classical English Academy channel this morning, and I noticed a recurring theme. So many students feel like they are standing at the bottom of a mountain that is simply too high to climb. They keep using the word impossible.
I hear that constantly, Anna. It's that day one overwhelm. You open a textbook or watch a movie, and suddenly you're hit with thousands of vocabulary words you don't know. And then you realize that English has more irregular verbs than almost any other language. It feels like a chaotic puzzle where the pieces don't even fit together.
It really does feel like chaos at first. But here is the honest truth I want to share with everyone listening. The beginning is simply the steepest part of the hill. Think of it like riding a bicycle. The most energy you ever use is that very first push to get the wheels moving. Once you have a bit of momentum, it actually gets easier, not harder.
That's a great way to put it. I think beginners get stuck because they try to learn everything at once. They see 10,000 words and think, I have to know all of these to speak. But in reality, native speakers use a very small percentage of those words in daily life. The frustration comes from looking at the whole mountain instead of just the next step.
Exactly. And while English feels disorganized because of its history, mixing Latin, German, and French, it actually starts to form a very recognizable pattern once you get past the first few weeks. It's like a secret code. Once you understand the basic structure, your brain starts to predict what comes next.
But what about those irregular verbs, Anna? They are the nightmare of every student. You learned walked, then suddenly ran appears and ruins the pattern.
They are tricky, I admit. But even those follow families of sounds. The impossible myth exists because we focus on our mistakes rather than our progress. If you can say 5 sentences today that you couldn't say yesterday, the mountain is already getting smaller.
So the reality is that the chaos is just a lack of familiarity. The more you immerse yourself, the more that noise turns into music. It's about surviving that initial steep climb without giving up.
Precisely. If you can stay consistent during those first few messy weeks, you'll find that the language starts to open up for you. Don't let the volume of the language scare you away from the beauty of the conversation.
Moving on to our second segment today, I want to talk about something that stops students in their tracks before they even get a full sentence out. It's what I call the grammar trap. Anna, you see this all the time with the students here at the Classical English Academy, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, Tom. It's a form of mental paralysis. I've watched students who actually know quite a bit of English suddenly freeze up. You can almost see the gears turning in their heads. They are trying to mentally translate from their native language, then they are checking for the correct verb tense, then they are worrying about whether they need a or the. By the time they've checked all those grammar rules, the moment to speak has passed.
It's like trying to learn to drive a car by reading the entire owner's manual before you ever touch the steering wheel. You're so worried about the mechanics that you forget the goal is just to move forward.
Exactly. They are overthinking the structure instead of focusing on the communication. They want to be 100% perfect before they open their mouths. But the truth is, overthinking is the enemy of fluency. If you are constantly editing your sentences in your head, you will never achieve that natural flow we always talk about.
So how do we break out of that trap? My best strategy is the 70% rule. Don't wait until you feel 100% sure about a sentence. If you're 70% sure, just say it. I always tell my students that making a loud mistake in a real conversation is a 10 times better learning tool than reading a grammar textbook silently in your room for 3 hours.
That is such a powerful shift in perspective, Tom. A mistake made out loud gives your brain data. When someone corrects you, or even when you just realize you said something slightly wrong, your brain remembers that social interaction much more vividly than it remembers a rule on page 42 of a workbook.
Precisely. In a textbook, the stakes are low. In a conversation, the stakes are real. When you make a mistake and keep going, you're teaching your brain that the world doesn't end if you use the wrong preposition. You have to give yourself permission to be messy with your English.
I love that. Permission to be messy. We need to remember that the goal of language is to connect with another human being, not to pass a continuous grammar test. If the person you are talking to understands your idea, you have succeeded, even if your past tense wasn't perfect.
Right. So, for everyone listening, stop being a perfectionist and start being a communicator. Close the textbook for a moment, find a partner, and just start talking. The grammar will follow the practice. The practice doesn't wait for the grammar.
Moving into our third segment, Tom, I want to talk about the invisible wall that stops so many students from speaking in public, even when they know the words. It's that deep-seated fear of their own voice, the fear of pronunciation and that perfect accent illusion.
It is a massive psychological barrier, Anna. I see students at the Classical English Academy who have incredible vocabularies, but the moment they have to speak, they shrink. They are terrified of sounding wrong or silly because they don't sound like a Hollywood actor or a news anchor. There is this immense self-imposed pressure to sound exactly like a native speaker from day one.
And that is such a heavy burden to carry. Here is the honest truth. A perfect accent is a myth because even native speakers have hundreds of different accents. Whether you're in London, New York, or Sydney, everyone sounds different. The goal should never be to erase your identity. The goal is clarity. Clear communication always beats a perfect accent.
Exactly. If I can understand what you're saying, then you have mastered the language. People often confuse having an accent with having bad pronunciation. You can have a very strong accent from your home country and still be 100% understandable. The fear of sounding foreign actually prevents people from practicing the very thing that would make them clearer.
You're right, Tom. When you're too focused on sounding flawless, your voice becomes quiet and hesitant, which actually makes you harder to understand. My biggest tip for building confidence is to focus on word stress and rhythm rather than individual letter sounds. English is a rhythmic language. If you get the beat right, people will understand you even if your R or TH isn't perfect.
That's a great tip. I also tell learners to record themselves. It sounds scary, but listening to your own voice helps you realize that you probably sound much better than you think you do. The perfection trap is just a way for our brains to stay in our comfort zones where it's safe and quiet.
It really is. Another actionable tip is shadowing. Listen to a short clip of someone speaking and repeat it immediately, mimicking their emotion and speed, not just the sounds. This builds muscle memory in your jaw and tongue. Stop obsessing over sounding like someone else and start focusing on being a confident version of yourself.
Well said, Anna. Remember, your accent is a sign that you know more than one language. It's a badge of honor, not something to hide. If you speak clearly and with confidence, the world will listen, regardless of how you pronounce your vowels.
Now, Tom, we need to talk about a very specific and often discouraging phase that almost every student at the Classical English Academy hits. It's called the intermediate plateau. This is that frustrating period where you've moved past being a beginner, you can hold a basic conversation, but suddenly it feels like your progress has just stopped. You're working just as hard, but you don't feel better than you did last month.
It's a real psychological wall, Anna. When you're a beginner, every day feels like a victory because you're learning basic words like apple or house. But once you reach the middle ground, the gains are much more subtle. You might learn 5 new idioms, but you don't feel more fluent. It's the point where many learners get bored, or worse, feel like they've reached their maximum potential and give up.
Exactly. It's like climbing a mountain where the path suddenly becomes flat. You're still walking, but you aren't getting any higher. The honest truth here is that this plateau isn't a sign that you've stopped learning. It's a sign that your brain is busy organizing everything you've already gathered. To break through it, you can't just keep doing the same old exercises. You have to change the way English exists in your daily life.
I couldn't agree more. To smash through that plateau, you have to stop studying English for an hour and start living in English 24/7. One of my favorite habits for this is what I call active narration. While you're doing mundane tasks like making your bed or brewing your morning coffee, start narrating your actions out loud in English. Say, "Now I am pouring the water, and I can smell the roasted beans."
That's brilliant because it forces your brain to bridge the gap between physical action and the language without a textbook in front of you. It builds that direct connection so you don't have to translate in your head.
Precisely. And the second step is even more powerful, thinking in English. Instead of waiting for a conversation to practice, have the conversation with yourself inside your head. If you're stuck in traffic, don't think in your native language about being late. Try to formulate those thoughts in English. It sounds simple, but it's the secret sauce that professional linguists use to reach true fluency.
It really turns the language into a tool rather than a subject. When you narrate your morning routine or think about your to-do list in English, you're hitting those plateau spots where you realize, oh, I don't actually know the word for a spatula, or how do I express frustration in a natural way? It highlights the small gaps that you can then go and fill.
Right. It takes English out of the classroom part of your brain and puts it into the survival and personality part of your brain. If you do this for just 10 minutes a day, you'll find that within a few weeks, that plateau starts to tilt upward again. You'll find yourself speaking without that heavy thinking pause.
So if you're feeling stuck, don't buy a harder textbook. Just start talking to yourself. It might feel a little strange at first, but it is the fastest way to make the language feel like it truly belongs to you.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but it all leads to this final verdict. The honest truth is that English isn't some uniquely impossible mountain that only genius students can climb. It isn't inherently harder than learning to play a musical instrument, coding a website, or mastering a new sport. The reason it feels impossible for so many people isn't a lack of talent. It's a lack of consistency.
That hits the nail on the head, Tom. People often look for a magic pill or a secret grammar book that will make them fluent overnight. When they don't see massive results in a week, they think they aren't good at languages. But fluency is just the result of showing up, even on the days when you don't feel like it.
Exactly. If you study for 5 hours once a month, you will fail. But if you spend just 15 minutes every single day, listening, speaking, or thinking in English, you are guaranteed to improve. Consistency is the engine that drives progress. The method you use matters far less than the mindset you bring to the table. You have to stop asking if you can learn and start deciding how you will fit it into your day.
And that brings us to the biggest shift of all, moving from a studying mindset to a living the language mindset. When you think of English as a subject like history or math, your brain treats it like a chore. It feels heavy. But when you start living the language, watching movies you actually enjoy, following English-speaking creators on social media, or even changing your phone's language settings, the process becomes natural.
It's about making English a part of who you are, not just something you do at a desk with a highlighter. When the language becomes the medium through which you experience your hobbies or your work, the hard parts start to melt away. You stop worrying about the rules because you're too busy enjoying the communication.
Precisely. The moment you stop trying to conquer English and start simply existing within it, you've already won. You'll find that the vocabulary sticks better and the grammar starts to feel intuitive. So our final takeaway for everyone listening at the Classical English Academy is this: trust the process, stay consistent, and let English become a natural part of your daily life.
Well said, Anna. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. If you keep showing up, the fluency will follow.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode here at the Classical English Academy. We really hope our honest truth helps you realize that you are doing much better than you think you are. English isn't a monster to be defeated. It's a journey to be enjoyed.
Exactly, Anna. And if you found today's discussion helpful, please show us some love. Hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel grow and reach more learners just like you.
And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our weekly deep dives into fluency. We want to hear from you too. Drop a comment below and tell us, what is the one thing in English that feels the hardest for you right now? We promise to read and reply.
Lastly, if you know someone who is struggling with their confidence, please share this video with them. Let's build a community where we all move toward fluency together.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and we will see you in the next one.
Goodbye, everyone.